Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 109 of Nostalgia Talk. I'm James, and joining me today is the one and only, a guy with an incredible career, Jim Conroy.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you. I don't know how incredible it is, but I'm still here.
It's quite an incredible career for anybody who, as I was researching for this, I was like, oh, there's a lot of things that I got to bring up here. So, for anybody who doesn't know, Jim is an actor and voice actor. You'd mostly know him best as a voice actor, most specifically as the title character on the PBS reality game show type, type, I guess, because it was done as a fictional type game show, but an activity show, Fetch with Ruff Ruffman. He has done Huckleberry Hound, Captain Caveman, and various other Hanna-Barbera classic cartoon characters on the series Jellystone. He played Kenny the Shark for Discovery Kids. He was on the Cuphead Show on Netflix. He recently has been performing on the Disney Channel series Primos as Bud Humphrey and Vision Tiger, and he's done additional voices for the Blue Sky Studios films Ice Age 4 Continental Drift, Rio 2, and Epic.
Wow, that's nice. I like having my resume announced.
What can I say? It's a very epic resume.
Well, I'm no D. Bradley Baker, but I'm kind of like the old new kid on the block, it feels like, the last number of years in this business. So I just, every time I think it's over, I find something else to do.
Well, let's go back to when you were the new kid on the block. How did you first become interested in acting, like in acting in general?
Oh, I think probably the same way most actors do. You know, you're kind of, like George Carlin said, this whole business is about dig me. And it's kind of, people in my family have always thrived being the center of attention. So I just found a way to monetize it. So I've done what most kids do. You know, you absorb every cartoon you see, you mimic every Star Wars movie, you're in school plays and this, that, and the other. And I went to college, majored in theater, and then moved to New York way back in 1997 to try to make my way into the voice acting world. And so far, so good.
So you were mostly interested in voice acting?
Mostly, yes. I've
Okay.
learned through other colleagues and friends and representation to kind of try to dip my toe in as many waters as possible, because you never know when one thing's going to dry up and other things are going to present an opportunity. So I started mostly in voiceover, and probably about halfway through my career, I started doing a little bit more on-camera commercials.
Okay.
And then in the last year, I had about 4 cartoons come out. I was on an episode of FBI on CBS, and I just recently finished shooting a movie with Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson and Jim Belushi,
Ooh.
Michael Imperioli. I shot right here in New Jersey, so I didn't have, the commute was easy. And now I'm just kind of working on some things with Audible in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm on stage right now in an off-Broadway musical. So I'm just trying to, and I'm teaching a little bit, so I'm trying to do as much as I can just to stay functional and stay as relevant as possible in an ever-shifting industry.
Well, with the new stuff that you just brought up, one of the things that actually prompted me to want to reach you about doing this show was my family were watchers of that new ABC show Shifting Gears.
Ah, yes.
And I saw your name in the credits doing Carter's Dumb Robot, and I thought to myself,
Yeah.
Jim Conroy. Oh, wait, that's the guy that did Ruff Ruffman. So I
Yeah.
thought he'd be a cool get for Nostalgia Talk.
Yeah, that was a fun one. That was an easy job. I didn't even have to go into a session. They basically just took my audition and threw it in there. It's nice to get paid to say the word farter twice. Not the most difficult job I've ever had, but hey, you know, it's Wike, and I was happy to do it. It was cool.
So you did theater in school. What college did you go to?
Oh, I went to SUNY New Paltz.
Okay.
That's a little college upstate New York in the Hudson Valley. Anything north of the Bronx is considered upstate New York. But if you put like a little star on the map, it's still in like the southern tip of New York. But just anything, you might as well be Canada, anything north of Nyack. But I went to New Paltz. I grew up about a half hour away from there. I met my wife there.
And being Canadian, of course, right over here.
Oh, yeah. I've been to Canada a few times. I used to go camping with my family in the Thousand Islands area.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to Montreal a couple of times.
I'm a maritimer. I live in Nova Scotia.
Oh.
But a good chunk of my extended family is in Montreal. I actually was just there not too long ago visiting them.
Do you speak the language?
Not very well. It's so crazy being part French Canadian, but French is not my first language.
Nor mine, sir. No, nor mine.
So do you remember your first ever acting gig? Was it like voice acting? Was it regular acting?
I think the first thing I ever did, if I'm remembering correctly, was back in that late '90s. I did a bunch of voices on a show that was on MTV for a few years called Celebrity Deathmatch. That's kind of where I cut my teeth in the voice acting world. Really great. Eric Fogel, who's done a lot of stuff, created that, and really fun to do. So that was kind of like I kind of learned how to be on microphone and timing and this, that, and the other. And that was before I even had an agent. It was just a friend of a friend kind of hooked me up with that. And I stuck around there for about 3, 4 years.
Okay.
So that was the very first thing I did.
And then you got to do, as I said in the intro, Kenny the Shark for Discovery Kids.
Yeah, that was my first full animated series. Kenny the Shark, Risa Newirth cast me in that, and I enjoyed that. I worked with great people. The late Peter Fernandez directed season 1, and Peter is very famous for bringing Speed Racer to America. So that was kind of a mind-blowing experience. It was great. I got to work with Rob Bartlett, which was really cool. I used to hear him all the time on the Imus in the Morning Show. So that was nice. I did that for 2 seasons, and then right into Fetch with Ruff Ruffman. And then that was it for me for animation for almost 10 years.
Fetch with Ruff Ruffman was actually going to be my next question. How did you get to do that character?
Standard just like everybody else. We all get to audition for these things.
Yeah.
And the callback was in person, which was weird for a voiceover. Like, it wasn't in a booth. It was it felt more like auditioning for an on-camera job. So a lot of improvisation, this, that, and the other. I didn't know how I felt when I came out of the callback, but not too long after, I got a call from my agent saying that they'd like me to fly to Boston. They're not sure who they're going to cast, but they really like my ideas. This was a joke, apparently. They actually did cast me. Because when I got to the meeting, I'm like, what ideas?
Because I was going to say, when it comes to ideas, like, the actors don't really have much of control over that.
Not much, but that wound up being kind of a thing for the show, because the show, Glenn Berger wrote the scripts, and the producers, of course, with reality TV, you have to kind of steer things in a direction, and that's kind of another way to write these type of things. And then a decent portion of it is me improvising. So I did wind up contributing a lot to the show, not knowing that that's what I was going to be doing. But when you look back on it, it was a really tremendous collaborative experience, and it was just probably the best 5 of my favorite years of my career playing Ruff Ruffman. And I still do Ruff for WGBH every once in a while for some online things or some other show ideas. But man, I would love to go back and just do that show all over again.
I remember when Fetch with Ruff Ruffman was new back in 2006. I grew up a PBS kid, so a lot of like Sesame Street, Between the Lions, Clifford the Big Red Dog, Arthur, all the classics. Fetch with Ruff Ruffman, I remember, and I don't have a lot of memories of it. I'm gonna admit that, but I remember watching it, and as you're kind of talking about how it's done, like, I remember it best as a game show, but you kind of describe it as a reality competition, and it is very much like that. I watched a little bit of it getting ready for this. Ruff Ruffman, to me, and especially because he's a fictional host, but he's just as outgoing as a host should be for a show like that. He's kind of like a mix of Pat Sajak and Jeff Probst.
Yeah, I've been asked a few times, like, what is Ruff kind of based on, and I think because I get into certain famous people for a period of time will influence a laugh or a behavior or a rhythm or timing, I'll borrow from them a lot for auditions as time goes on. In the voiceover business, you kind of get a sense of who's really popular because they get referenced a lot in auditions. But I would say that Ruff was like a combination of my father, a little bit of Jack Black.
I can see that.
Yeah, a little bit of Jon Stewart.
Oh, I love Jon Stewart.
I borrowed a lot of, and oddly enough, like I borrowed, he's long past and was controversial for a time, but because I grew up in the 80s, the 70s and the 80s, there's a little bit of Don Imus in some of his outrage, but he was a New York City DJ for many years. So there's just these little things that I kind of borrow from other people to kind of create him. But it was such a unique character that I've never worked on anything like that since, where you kind of sold that illusion of talking off the cuff to the kids, in live conversation. That's the way that they engineered the show when it was all edited and put together, which took a lot considering how out of sequence everything was shot.
Especially with having a fictional host too.
Sure. You did sense that it just looked like these kids were talking back and forth to an animated character. And I don't know a kid that didn't fantasize about doing that with characters that they grew up talking. So that was a really unique experience. I really enjoyed that.
So that wasn't recorded like you would be in the booth doing Ruff's voice and the kids would actually respond. That would be like they would listen for your voice as it was being taped and respond on camera.
Well, if you remember the show, the kids were always looking at a television screen that was in front of the chairs they were sitting on. And on the show, it looked, they had Ruff animated. But really what they were seeing when we were shooting it is they were looking at what you're looking at right now, this mug. So I was in another room with a microphone stand much like this, and I had a monitor where I could see the kids, and a camera would be on me so they could see my face. And that was it. Now, I had some of the characters that I do just to help them realize who they're talking to, because it moves fast. I would have some of the characters on popsicle sticks. And so if I had Grandma Ruffman, it's like, hello, dears. How are you? And Grandma Ruffman, I based completely on my wife's grandmother.
I was gonna say it sounded like a famous person.
No, it was her grandmother, and I just always loved the way that she talked and her little expressions, and I wanted to and she was a wonderful, wonderful person in our lives, and so I wanted to kind of lock her in forever. So I did.
It's always interesting to think about where the bases or these character voices come from. I've done voice acting, and the first time I ever did it, it was not meant to be an impression, but in the sound test, I did an impression, and they're like, okay, that's the voice we want you to use for this character, which I didn't think was right, but it ended up being funny, so...
It's funny you say that, because I took an animation class, voiceover class during the pandemic with JP Karliak, who does the Boss Baby voice on the Netflix series. And he had a really interesting idea. It's like sometimes you try to learn an impression of somebody and you just can't quite get it. So it doesn't 100% sound like them, but it's just different enough where it can be used as a character somewhere else. I thought that was a fascinating tip, that even your worst impression of something might be useful as a character in some other way. I thought that was really cool.
That is.
Yeah.
So in doing Ruff, you're really good as a host. And that kind of makes me wonder, because, we see actors on Saturday Night Live like Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon going on to host their own talk shows. And still kind of and same with Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and Conan O'Brien. And still kind of keep the acting going as they're hosting. Was hosting ever something you had an interest in?
I don't know if I necessarily had an interest in, but it was something that I was decent at doing. I'm very comfortable around. I used to do a show with a good friend of mine, another actor named Joe Narciso. We used to do this kind of interstitial show on Spike TV called The Weekend Pregame. And we would basically go around interviewing celebrities about their movies coming out. And so I've always been very comfortable in that process, asking questions, whatnot. I don't think I have the work ethic to do that as a full-time thing. And also, most of these guys are well-established comedians that wind up taking these jobs, and I am not that. I don't think I've done stand up in like 25 years on a regular basis. So, but I do feel comfortable asking questions, and I like it. I've done a panel at a Comic-Con where I've had to ask people questions, this, that, and the other. So, and
Oh,
also
that's
just
cool.
I was a huge like Daily Show fan back in the day. So, I kind of took a Jon Stewart approach to Ruff's interaction with the kids. There are little things, little Johnisms that I've incorporated into the show. So I doubt he's ever watched it. Actually, I'm surprised how many people still remember that show. There were a couple of documentaries that people made online, the Defunctland TV one, and another one just came out recently. Because I once the show was over, the internet was not. I was not deeply invested into the internet yet, and so I didn't realize like how many people watched that show. It was never tremendously successful, but it impacted a lot more people than I thought it did. And so that's kind of cool to still hear now. These people are in their 20s and 30s, telling me, "Hey man," you're like, even the Fetchers. Some of them are married now.
It's interesting we talk about hosting and playing a host on TV and being an actual host. I recently had a guest on here named R. Brandon Johnson, who was on 2 Disney Channel shows.
Oh,
and in both of those shows, he played a TV host.
Yeah.
And I guess he was so good at it, he became an actual TV host.
Hey, man, you got to go with what works.
Yeah.
You got to go with what works. That's great. That's outstanding.
And I was talking to one of my friends the other day about all the late night shows that I watch. I don't watch them when they're on, but in the morning I'll just watch the monologues.
Yeah, I can't do that anymore either. It's too late for me.
Mm-hmm.
Got to watch it the next day.
Yeah, and one of my friends, like I was talking to one of my friends about it, and she said to me, "I think James Nobes needs his own late night show."
Hey, dude, do it.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Late night up in Canada. I say do it. Don't let anybody stop you. Just go for it. My whole career is a miracle. Nobody knows who I am.
Unless they're listening to this.
Unless they're listening to this. Then they're like, oh, right, I remember that show.
That guy, yeah.
That guy. Yeah, that guy. I'm a lot of that guy. I've changed my look a number of times. I've fluctuated in weight enough, I kind of like, my thing is to work intensely for a period of time and then be forgotten almost immediately so I could start over and get something else. So it's been fun.
So on Fetch, there were quite a few celebrities as well. Did you ever actually, because you were talking about when you would record your lines and have the kids actually respond, did you actually get the chance to work or be around any of the celebrities who came on?
No. No. I only worked with the kids for about 2 weeks out of each summer. So I think the first thing, if I'm remembering the process correctly, the first thing is that they would, they cast the kids, and then they would go out and they would shoot these challenges. So they'd spend a lot of the summer shooting the challenges out in the field. I'm not there for that. So by the time that they're in the studio and I'm assigning the challenges to them, they've already done them. So there's a little bit of like, they have to kind of, oh, okay, this sounds fun, and head on out. So when I'm with the kids in the studio, we're shooting the intro where they're coming in through the door and I'm saying a little factoid about them. And then how's everybody doing? A little banter, and then I get into issuing the challenges, and then they run out the door and they do that, and then we'll do the halftime quiz show, and then we'll do bringing them back in after the challenge, assign the points, and then say goodbye and blah, blah, blah. That's it. Those are the 2 weeks that I work with the kids. After that, they have to edit everything together, and then I go back home, and then I'm in a booth in New York City, and now I'm watching the challenges that they shot in the summer. Mm-hmm. So, then it becomes kind of Mystery Science Theater 3000, where I'm just watching the challenges and I'm free form commenting over them. And the way I've always looked at it is, okay, if I ramble for an hour and I give them 5 minutes of useful material, and if there's something else they want to add later in another session, they're like, hey, can we emphasize this? This kid did this. Can we notice that? Let's hit this line a little harder. And that's it. And then we'll record like the intro animated scripts and the outro animated scripts. And that's it. So this has really shot out of sequence, recorded out of sequence, and so it's really crucial for the sound editors and the animators and the producers to really put each episode together so it looks like there's an actual timeline to it, which is great. But no, I didn't get to meet anybody, really. I worked with the fetchers and the fetchers only. So if they worked with somebody out in the field, I didn't get to see them. I didn't get to travel with them. I didn't get to go out west or any of those things. So, which is fine. What am I going to do?
So, moving on from that, as I said when we started, you were on the show Jellystone doing so many iconic Hanna-Barbera characters, including one of my very favorite cartoon characters who doesn't really get a lot of love, Huckleberry Hound.
Oh, really? I think there's a huge Huckleberry Hound fan base out there. Yeah,
I asked my friends, do you remember Huckleberry Hound? They're like, what in the hell is Huckleberry Hound?
Well, man, they can't all be as classically trained as you in the history of animation. Yeah, Huckleberry Hound. I remember when I got the audition for that. I think it might have been back in 2017, 2018. I didn't actually get the audition for Huckleberry Hound. I was initially given the audition for Yogi Bear, and I felt I couldn't really do a Yogi Bear. But I saw other characters, and the thing I was like, hey, can I try Huckleberry Hound? Now, my Huckleberry Hound, if you watch Jellystone, does not sound like Dawes Butler's Huckleberry Hound, who originated the character, and originated, the vast majority of these characters.
Oh yeah.
But they weren't really looking to have every character sound exactly the way it was supposed to be. They were open to some interpretation, and thank goodness, because you're not casting me as Huckleberry Hound if I've got to sound like Dawes, because I can't. The only characters, it's a tough one. So there's a hint of his energy in there. I wanted to keep like the essence of what Huckleberry Hound is laid back. I have always been drawn to these laid back characters. Droopy the dog, Huckleberry Hound, just kind of mellow within chaos. Mm-hmm. So, and I found out I got cast for that. And then they kind of threw characters at you as the show went on. It's such a talented cast. Everybody got to play numerous characters, and sometimes you'd get handed things you didn't even know. Like, do you know that if I can even do this character? When they threw Barney Rubble at me for this season, I was like, oh, I didn't even think I could do a Barney Rubble, but I did okay with it. But I loved Huckleberry Hound.
It's basically an imitation of what's that guy's name on the Honeymooners? Art Carney.
Right, exactly. Whose son I'm friends with.
I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Golfed with the man many a time.
Wow.
Brian Carney. Captain Caveman. There's only one way to do Captain Caveman, unless I was directed to do completely in another direction. But the Unga Bunga, that whole, that's an easy one to do. The one that hit me in the childhood the most, and this came out on the final season, and it was brief, but there used to be this cartoon called Frankenstein Jr., and he looked like Frankenstein, but he was like a robot Frankenstein superhero, right? So my last name is Conroy. And so growing up in elementary school, there was the little boy that invented Frankenstein Jr. His name was Buzz Conroy. So I still, to this day, have people from high school, and only people from high school, that call me Buzz. There's a guy, my friend Rocky Billiou, who I've known since we were, kids, who I sing with in the Glee Club and I bowl with every Wednesday. He still calls me Buzz. So that's amazing. So when I got to do Frankenstein Jr.'s voice, I was like, oh man, this is hitting me right in the childhood. It was so cool. The amount of characters that they've brought back. The scripts are so good. Everybody's so good. The timing is so good. I love Jellystone. Love it. I please God do more.
Yeah.
But maybe not.
There's a good little mix of you, and I think it was Jeff Bergman who was doing quite a few of the other character voices.
Oh, Jeff Bergman. I mean, just to be in a show with him is incredible. His Yogi is just outstanding. I mean, his Fred Flintstone is unbelievable. He's just...
Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, he's one of the greats.
I think he was like one of the first actors to do Bugs Bunny after Mel Blanc passed away.
You may be correct on that. I'm kind of still learning everybody because, the West Coast has, I'm in New Jersey. The West Coast is loaded with your Gray Delisles and your D. Bradley Bakers and your Eric Bauses and your Candy Milos and just like everybody, all the heavy hitters are out there. So I'm out here in my little booth in New Jersey. So I'm very fortunate to be playing in that sandbox. That's a sandbox I've wanted to play my whole life. It just took me to almost my 50s to try to get in there a little more consistently. But they have a stable out there of just some of the most talented actors doing voiceover and animation. It is very intimidating. I actually got in a booth with Gray Griffin, and it was all I could do. It was all I could do not to faint. I mean, I was incredibly intimidated, and she is as nice and generous of a performer and a person as has always been told to me, and it was one of my favorite experiences. We worked together on the Cuphead show.
Yeah, she is a very sweet person. She followed me on Twitter before, everything with Twitter now. But like she would like my post to her, like if I would say, "Oh, I'm watching you on this," and or if I'd reply to her, she'd like it. But one day I posted something that was going on in my class, like, "Hey, this is what happened in school today." And she liked it. And I thought to myself, wait, what? Okay, that's cool.
She is great like that. There's something about the animation community and their connection with the fans and the people that watch that you won't see as much in many of the other mediums, I think, in our industry. I've noticed a lot more interaction between actors who voice animation and the people that watch the animation. Mm-hmm. So that's really kind of cool. I like that about that.
Yeah, I've had
very active online. She's very generous with her time, and she's a busy mom. She works. She's a singer. She writes songs. She tours all over the place. She's at Comic-Cons all that. I don't know how she gets any rest at all. And she's on just about everything. I think I see her and Eric Bauza and D. Bradley Baker in the credits of just about everything that's out there. I'm watching her do incredible work on Invincible. On which I believe is on Amazon. Yeah, right? Yeah, Amazon Prime. Yeah, just an incredible show.
I've had on this show before voice acting legends like Bob Bergen.
Love Bob.
Well, yeah, he's awesome. Corey Burton recently.
Oh my goodness.
Brian Cummings, Michael Bell, Pat Fraley.
Michael Bell yelled at me once. It was an honor.
I kind of believe that, honestly. Michael Bell is a very sarcastic person from what I've learned about him.
You know what? I love all of them. It's great. When we used to negotiate animation contracts, it was like a veritable who's who of voice actors, and it was very intimidating for me because I wasn't even on any of these cartoons while they were out there crushing it. So Michael had a right to yell at me back then. I think I'm okay now.
I'll say hi to him for you.
Oh, please do. He'll go, who? But yeah, I mean, just mentioning those names and then throwing me in there, that's really good company. So that's great, and great for your show.
Not too long ago, I saw that new Looney Tunes movie, actually, talking about Eric Bauza and Candy Milo, because they were in it together, The Day the Earth Blew Up. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
Haven't seen it yet.
It's basically a tribute to Tex Avery and Bob Clampett. And do you know Mark DiCarlo?
Have not met, to the best of my knowledge.
He was just recently on the show a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about the sophistication of the goofiness when it comes to Tex Avery and Bob Clampett. You know it's going to be goofy, and for what they want, the slapstick and the silliness, some people are like, oh, that's way too crazy. But it's what they want, and so it's sophisticated because it's what they want, and they're good at bringing that into their content. With Chuck Jones and Friz Freleng, and with Daffy in particular, Daffy became more of an attention seeker in my mind. But with Bob Clampett and Tex Avery, when it came to Daffy and Porky, they were just goofy, and the animation was a little bit like that as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I love Daffy's line in this movie. It's time for this duck to go amok.
Yes.
I'm sure any Looney Tunes fan gets that.
I mean, Bob Bergen's been doing Porky forever. Bowser's great. And you don't even have to. What's great about Bowser, you don't even have to pitch his voice up
Hmm.
It's there.
That's
It's
what Bob
there.
had mentioned about doing Tweety.
Bob did Tweety too, yeah. There's been so many like talented people that have lent their voices to these characters, and they've all treated them with respect and the love of Mel Blanc, who is on, of course, the Mount Rushmore of animation voiceover. So
Entertainment,
uh,
really.
really, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny. Animation just has this regenerative life. Um, I joke that, like, 500 years from now, nobody's, if the planet's still here, nobody's really gonna. They're gonna be people like, I don't know who Jerry Seinfeld is, but somebody will be wearing a Mickey Mouse T-shirt. Somebody will be wearing a Bugs Bunny T-shirt. These cartoons, because we just keep making babies, so these shows will be. They just kind of find their way back in, back in, back in. So there is a bit of immortality to it, which is great. And so to have actors come in and take these classic characters and commit to them with the passion that they do, it's admirable and it's to be respected.
Talking about classic cartoons, this is kind of a ridiculous story, but the first time I had ever seen anything Cuphead related, I think it was on Facebook. And my first thoughts was that it was a classic 1920s cartoon that I've never heard of because it came out like 100 years before I was born.
Mm.
Um, and so I thought maybe this Cuphead thing is worth watching. And there it was on Netflix, the Cuphead show. And I'm like, okay, is this a spin-off or something? I was like, wait, this is a recent video game that's made.
It is gorgeous.
It
That
is
show
incredibly.
was so gorgeous. And right before the pandemic, that's when I just happened to be out in LA, and that's when I got into the booth with Grey Griffin. And I you watch this show and I mean, a lot of people knew the video game, which I hear is very difficult to
I've
play.
never
It's an
actually played it. Again,
unforgiving,
I was
yeah.
so new to this.
But I just the orchestration, the music, the animation, the voice work, especially by the three mains, was just unbelievable. I was only in a couple of episodes, but just to be a part of that, I mean, I look at that and I'm just like, this is stunning,
Mhm.
stunning. And I want to see more animation like that. So kudos. I wish that show was coming back.
And
Uh,
likewise, its animation was also very much meant to resemble the classic way, kind of like in the way
yep.
that the Looney Tunes movie was. Like it is total like and it's hard to do that now when everything's all digital. Like The Simpsons, for example. Like I watch the old episodes and then I compare the animation to the new episodes when they air, and I'm like, there's a lot. It looks a lot like it's more done digitally or on computers than it did back in the day, because you could tell that the old Simpsons was hand drawn.
Well, I know about as much as how things are animated as I do about astrophysics. So I like to keep myself in the dumb actor realm. But yeah, but you can recognize like where they're homaging their animation from, and it's interesting to see things that are different. I mean, you look at something like Arcane that my friend Bill Lobley is on, and that's just
Oh, my friend Sam is probably going to flip
stunning.
when she hears that. She's a
Yeah,
huge Arcane fan.
yeah, that's stunning. I unless they've cut me, I should be in an episode of Devil May Cry when it comes out on April 3rd on Netflix. Um, and just the trailer I've seen of that looks unbelievable. I mean, it is. There is something out there, and there's just a lot of great. Even though, what is that? Um, I get it wrong. I think it's on Netflix. Something robot. It's like a series of animated short form things.
Robot Chicken?
Yeah, I don't know what no, not Robot Chicken, although Robot Chicken's amazing. My son and
Yeah.
I can watch all the Star Wars Robot Chicken for hours upon hours upon hours and never get tired of it. Robot Chicken is mwah, so good. I forget what damn is Robot something. See, you get in your 50s, you just it all starts to go. Oh well.
So currently, you are on the newest Disney Channel animated series, Primos, where you do two recurring characters, Bud Humphrey and Vision Tiger.
Yeah, yeah. Natasha Klein's her baby. her childhood, fully animated. Wonderful, wonderful person to work for. It does not suck working for the mouse. I loved.
Well, hot dog.
Yeah. Oh, very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's so funny how these things. Animation means so much to those that do it, whether you're drawing it, you're writing it, you're creating it, you're voicing it, because there's so much time is involved in getting it going. I was still in my 40s when I auditioned for it. I'd say, so when a show
and that
comes out,
show just recently came out.
Yeah, it came out July of last year. But I auditioned for it. I want to say like in the summer or early fall of 2020. And most of it done right here in my booth on my end. I went out and did some sessions in LA there, so I actually got to meet Natasha. And I think that's some of my best acting, voiceover wise, playing the father, Bud Humphrey. Mm-hmm. But I think the character that people had spoken about is the Vision Tiger. Vision Tiger became like just the fun one to do. And I did some other like little side characters in that, and sang a couple of songs on the show. So that's nice to see that, I could say I sang a song on a Disney show. So there's my childhood enjoying that. But the show is great. Just really good, and I'm very honored to have been a part of it. Really enjoyed. Just great people to work for.
That's awesome. So to wrap it up, when I announce these shows on Nostalgia Talk social media, I ask listeners if they have any questions of their own that they'd like to send.
Oh, cool.
And I got one on Fetch with Ruff Ruffman.
I remember that show.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about it some time
We
back.
very much were, Fetcher.
So I have to confess, when I got this question, I didn't quite understand what it was asking, but I kind of
hopefully I will.
Yeah, well, I eventually reverse engineered it, and I felt it was worth asking. This is from Samuel Warwick.
Okay.
And he's asking, was there a particular fetcher, not a favorite, but any particular fetcher that really has stuck with you?
Oh, let's throw all the fetchers under the bus and love only one. It's very hard for me to top the first season because that's like the first experience. I just consistently got a kick out of Khalil from season 1, who was, I think, still 10 years old. He was the youngest fetcher, and was so positive and just so gung-ho to do anything they asked him to do, and was funny. And my favorite episode of the whole shebang was the famous boat race episode where you had to build a boat and then try to paddle it in a race. And Khalil was just so funny, just cracked me up. It was he was very watchable. But I love all my fetches. But yeah, if you're, forcing me to pick one and throw everybody else under the bus, I would go with Khalil. Sorry, everybody. I love you all. You're all wonderful. Just not as wonderful as Khalil.
Hey, Ruff, how am I doing at hosting? I'm basically taking after you.
You're doing outstanding, Fetcher. You're going to have your own talk show, game show, reality show one day. Just understand, the pay is very low.
Well, I'm already doing this talk show, so...
There you go. You're doing it. We're watching it in real time.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all I've got here. Is there anything you want to say to wrap up?
Well, James, we have the same name, so that's good. Do you go by James or Jim? Is it always James?
I just go by James.
Yeah. Very few people call me James. It's usually Jim or Buzz or, or when I was doing TD Ameritrade, that jerk on the street. No.
I got called way worse when I was in high school.
Yeah, Jimbo. Jimbo, I get a few people. My niece calls me that.
I just got called nerd, and there would usually be some more colorful language before it.
Yeah, that was me too. That was me, but we have the last laugh now because look at us. James, thank you very much for having me on your show. Really appreciate you reaching out, and I'm honored to be a part of it as these other great voice actors before me.
Well, it was awesome having you.
Thank you, my friend.
And to everyone listening, I just realized we're a show away from episode number 110. And you know what's crazy? Now, whenever we reach the tens, it just doesn't feel as special because when we did 100, like that was big, but now we're at 110 and it's like, oh no, the next big one's probably going to be 150 or episode number.
Don't discount 125. That's a good number.
No, 125, yeah,
125. That's a good number to look at.
Or even 200.
Maybe
or
you'll
2
get
million.
Gray. Maybe Gray. You'll get Gray to do 125.
Hi, Gray, if you're listening.
Sorry, Gray. I'm putting pressure on you.
So for news on upcoming Nostalgia Talks, you guys know where to go. Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky. Those links are in the description. And I'll see you next time. Peace out.